Welcome to Biohacking with Brittany. I am thankful and grateful that you are listening to today's episode. This is a place where I talk about health and wellness and biohacking and everything in between. And I am happy to just bring you another episode as we go along with producing these. It has been a wild week. I had my midwife appointment this morning and it went really, really well, which was so reassuring and comforting. And I cannot wait to continue to release my podcast episodes about my pregnancy. The next one I'll be releasing will be about my second trimester biohacks. And then I will release the third trimester experience and third trimester biohacks probably in about a month or so. Thanks for all the positive feedback that I'm getting from all of you about my pregnancy journey. And there's so much encouragement and applause. And it's just really nice to hear such positive feedback. So thank you for that. And yes, I will do a podcast episode on my birth experience. Absolutely. Don't know when that will come out, but I will do it. 99% sure I would do it. I don't know why I wouldn't do it, even if it goes completely awry and not according to plan. I think there's still a lot of power in sharing your stories. So I will definitely be releasing that sometime this summer after baby comes. Oh my goodness. So yes, very exciting and lots going on. And yeah, thank you for your support. It means the world to me as always. If you are new here, this is my first time being pregnant, first time mom. I am due soon. I'm not really telling anyone the date because I don't want people to bug me. I don't want the pressure or anything like that. So I am due in July, that's all I'll say. So I'm very much expecting to go over my due date as well. So I have no claim to the date. I have no hard stop. At 40 weeks, I am very open to going over. And it's very, very common for first-time moms to go over. So it's actually the average day that a woman gives birth for her first baby is 41 weeks and 3 days to 41 weeks and 5 days. So 10 days to 12 days over your due date. So because of that, and, my mom went over her due date for all 3 kids by 2 weeks. I am very much expecting to just overcook the child. And so, yeah, that's where I'm going. Things will continue to run as normal. And what I'm doing right now is I'm setting up my business so that I can obviously take time off and things will continue to run and I will be involved, not a lot for the first few months. And then obviously you trickle back in and kind of see how it goes. And I will definitely be doing a podcast episode on that because figuring out maternity leave when you're an entrepreneur is not easy and figuring out how I'm going to make it work. So that is a whole other discussion. Thank you for listening. I am excited that you are here. Before we dive into anything, let's do the DM of the week and let's see what this person says. I actually just got one. Oh my gosh, this is so risky. Okay, I read the first few words of it and I haven't read the whole thing. I think I'm just going to read this live. I have not read this DM, okay? I'm just going to read this live. And if this doesn't go well, then I'm just going to cut this part out. Okay, here we go. Okay, this woman who will not be named. I just listened to your most recent podcast about your second trimester, and I just wanted to say I can completely relate to how you were or are feeling around weight gain. I've struggled with disordered eating and body image issues forever, it seems, and watching my body change so dramatically is extremely difficult for me. Good for you for being able to throw away the scale. I'm due, I won't say her due date. And yeah, she says, I hang out on the August board on what to expect, but also lurk in July just in case I'm early and will be following your podcast. I look forward to hearing more about your pregnancy, labor prep, and delivery. Wow. Okay. So much to say here. Thank you to this woman for listening. I hope you listen to this podcast so you can this episode so you can hear me read your DM. I legit just read that live. So first of all, I just spoke about this on the episode right before this one on my second trimester experience. Gaining weight was very difficult for me. It wasn't difficult for me to gain weight. I gained weight very fast, but it was difficult for me mentally. And I talk a lot about this. And it's really hard to explain unless you have been pregnant or, I guess maybe if there's been a medical condition that's caused you to gain weight. But man, oh man, when you are somebody who has had body images for forever that you've been working on and, you're getting to a good place when you become pregnant and things change so significantly for 9 months, it's really difficult to look in the mirror and not recognize your body anymore and still love yourself and try to be positive and grateful. And I go deep into this in the episode, so I'm not going to go deep into it now. If you have any feelings of that, I seriously suggest you listen to that because I really did not see or hear a lot of that narrative when I was going through it during second trimester. So I really encourage you to just read about that. I know a lot of people who listen to this are very much in the health and wellness space, and that can kind of make us neurotic or very focused on our health. And when that happens, like myself, like you're very, your work is your health and health is a number one priority and all of these things, that also equates to fitness and like how your body looks. And so when something like getting pregnant happens, it's hard to accept that you have gained weight and your clothes don't fit and you are more like flabby or there's softer or there's more fat on your legs or like, I don't know, whatever it is. So it's definitely mentally challenging. So thank you for that DM. I'm glad that you relate and congratulations that you're due in August. Send me any of your questions that you have. Because man, oh man, I have done so much research on birth and pregnancy. I cannot believe how much I've done. I was actually just on a call with some friends today and I was saying that I think being pregnant has made me a better researcher because I've had to research everything. Like, what is the vitamin K shot? What are the eye drops at birth? What about the GBS test that you have to take at 36 weeks? What about the ultrasound? What about like this and that? And like, what are the pros, the cons? How does it impact my health, the health of the baby? What does the medical system do? What do midwives do? Where do I stand? All of these things are decisions that you have to make. And so I have done so much research and that would be my number one tip to any woman who's listening, who is pregnant, especially if you are early on, if you're in the first half, do your research, buy the books, listen to the podcasts, do a birth course. Don't mess around because the best thing you can do for yourself is if you are in a situation where a doctor says to you, oh, I think that you're, measuring big. Let's induce you with Pitocin. I want you to understand exactly what that means. What is Pitocin? What does it mean for your contractions? What does inducing mean? Like all of that. You need to understand the language and what could possibly be thrown at you. So that's my number one tip is educate the shit out of yourself so that you are informed. I think, man, I'm going down a rabbit hole, but I think a lot of people, a lot of women, a lot of people, and this is no one's fault, really outsource the responsibility of their pregnancy, their health, and their birth to doctors. And they say, oh, okay, I'm pregnant. Oh, I'm just going to trust what my doctor says. It's going to be fine. I'm just going to trust what they say. Oh, during birth, you think I should go on Pitocin? Okay, and get an epidural? Oh, you think I should get a C-section? Okay, great. I am going to just do what you say because you're the doctor and you know more than me and you know what's best. That is such BS. Please don't do that. And why is it BS? It's BS because you know your body best and you need to take responsibility for your health in order to make the best decisions for yourself. And how do you do that? You educate yourself. Yeah, that's oh my gosh, like, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Sorry. I'm just like so deep in it right now. And I had my midwife appointment today. If your doctor doesn't listen to you and doesn't make you feel empowered and heard, please get a new doctor, get a new doula or a midwife, get a team around you that empowers you. My team that I have, holy smokes, I feel like I hit the lottery. My midwife, my main midwife, we will talk about something. So let's say like the vitamin K shot at birth, and she'll say, okay, here's the pros, the cons. Here's why they do it. Here's what the research says. Here's what happens if you don't do it. Here are the risks. Okay. But like, how often do those risks happen? How often can a baby bleed out? Blah, 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 whatever it is. And we walk through all of it. And then whatever decision I make, she just charts it. There's literally no like, I don't know, I think you should do this. Like, there's none of that. It's very like, here's all the information. You make your decision and you let me know. And it's very empowering. And I couldn't ask for a better team around me. If you have any questions about that, let me know. Also, if you are pregnant and you want podcasts, books, or course recommendations, I've done all of it as much as I can while working full time and moving and, all these things. So I can send you a list of resources if you want. Just send me a message on Instagram. Whew, that was very, very long-winded. Yeah, I'm just really excited about it. So you can see I'm very, very passionate about natural healthcare, which is not surprising to anybody. A shout out to Neurohacker for being one of the sponsors of this episode. Guys, Neurohacker is very cool. They have their Qualia senolytic product. And if you use the link in my bio, you actually get $100 off. And then you get, with my discount code, Brittany in all capitals, you get an additional 15% off, which is crazy. So basically a senolytic is very anti-aging, longevity focused supplement. And you take 2 every month, like as in 2 days of the month, you're taking this supplement. And it's great for resisting aging at the cellular level. It helps to decrease senescent cells, which when there's an accumulation of senescent cells, that's basically when disease and infection and things can kind of, take form in the body. It supports tissue rejuvenation. It promotes healthy physical function, and it improves joint function. So very powerful supplement that is focused on those senescent cells. I would definitely look into this if you're somebody who cares about longevity and aging, like many of us. It's a 2-day cell rejuvenation regimen. I've done it many times. So check that out. And then a shout out to Bioptimizers. Oh my gosh, I actually have to say this. So Bioptimizers has this mushroom drink that you make, and it is fabulous. And I actually just ordered the chai flavored one, and it came this week. And it's so good. So it has a blend, I think, of 5 different mushrooms in it. And I add it to coconut milk. And it is my afternoon pick-me-up. And it's phenomenal because all of the mushrooms that are in it focus on brain power, clarity, improve memory. And let me tell you, when you're pregnant, baby brain is a thing, okay? So I am loving taking these mushrooms to help support me and be able to have my brain function as normal or better. And I can feel the difference after I take it, actually. Like I feel sharper. So if you're somebody who works at home, has the afternoon slump, you are a stay-at-home mom or dad, you need a pick-me-up, you need something that's natural, that doesn't have any caffeine in it, I would do this mushroom breakthrough product. Comes in salted caramel, chai, or chocolate. I have the chai and the chocolate. I'm waiting to get the salted caramel. And like I said, I mix it with milk, 2 scoops with some milk. It's the best thing ever. The best. I don't even know how I was like surviving without it. I'm just so happy about it. So That's by Biooptimizers. Use the link in my bio. My discount code is biohackingbrittany. It will get you the most amount off possible. Don't tell anybody, but it does. So go check that out, use it, and enjoy today's podcast episode. I'm really grateful. I have Andrea Lepcio on the show. She is a woman who really turned her health around the age of 60 and found yoga and found fitness and really just went with it and shifted from this corporate career to something that was more fulfilling for her soul and really just helped her physically as well. So now she helps other people do that. And she has a very inspiring story about just kind of that transition at that point in her life, which was really refreshing because sometimes, I have a lot of younger guests on, and obviously people have different health journeys, but it's really, really cool and inspiring to hear about somebody who's had such a great corporate career and then to say, okay, I think I'm actually going to turn this around and try something different. I love that. Like I love that so much. So this is for everyone out there who wants to learn about arthritis, how it can influence fitness, debunking common fitness myths we talk about, facing fitness as you age and that type of thing. We talk about mobility versus flexibility, which was really interesting discussion. And how can we work on mobility throughout life? Like when we're stretching, when we're doing a workout, like what does that actually look like? So we get into a lot. I think you're going to really enjoy this episode, and stay tuned for next week. I put out episodes every Tuesday and Friday, and I will catch you then. If you have any questions for me, I'm most active in my Instagram DMs at biohackingbrittany. Follow me, send me a message, question, comment, whatever you want. Thanks for listening, and I will catch you next week. Welcome to Biohacking with Brittany. I am so excited that you are listening to today's episode. This is going to be a really fun episode and really interesting one. I kind of did this call out. I actually don't think I've announced this on my podcast, but I did this call out a while ago on Instagram Threads. Not that a lot of people use that anyway. Basically looking for women's health stories and inspiring women in the health space who can come on the podcast, trying to just broaden my network and see who would kind of take the bait. And today, one of those lucky women, I'm lucky to interview her, is Andrea Lepcio. And I was really inspired when I read her story because she is going to talk to us about finding fitness as she turned 60, going from a corporate career to a health career at that time in your life. We're going to talk about perimenopause and menopause. We're going to talk about fitness regimes as you age. And I'm just very interested to hear her take on all of these different things. She is a remarkable personal trainer. She is a yoga medicine therapeutic specialist, which is also very cool. So Andrea, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brittany. I'm delighted to be here with you today.
Yeah. Okay. So the burning question I have to know, when you went from corporate to fitness, what was the moment that made you think, okay, I need a change in my life? What happened to spark such a switch?
Well, it's a little bit of a funny story, and it's a tiny bit complicated. So I had this corporate career, but I also was a playwright, which means that I spent many years hunched over a computer writing plays, as well as the corporate work that I did. And so when you're a playwright, you need a day job. So the corporate work was my day job. And suddenly I got fired from my day job, laid off when I was 59, just after my 59th birthday. And so I had to figure out what I was going to do to round out the bill paying, because playwriting doesn't pay you every day of the week. And so I ended up getting this little job at the local YMCA, just like a little clerical job at the local YMCA. And then that got me thinking, because I was like, well, here I am. I'm going to be 60, and what's the future going to look like? And I'm getting older. And I was looking at all these people working out and then talking to the people at the Y. And I thought, what if I became a personal trainer? Wouldn't that be a great way to age? And so I just started to study and passed the test and became a personal trainer. But that turned out to be like really the beginning of the story, because you learn a lot when you do that kind of training and you have enough information where you can start to work with people. But I became so curious about anatomy. I wanted to learn, I just longed to learn more than that. So I continued to add more skills, and I went to yoga school, and I did my 200 hours first. And then I went on to do my 500 hours because I just kept having more questions and questions and questions and just wanting to learn more and more and more about the body. And I'm so glad that I've done all of that training, including mat Pilates and Tai Chi and some other modalities, because I find that my ability to just blend all of that information together allows me to design programs that really work for people.
Yeah, I love that. And so then you started, I mean, you went back to school and then you studied again, and then you started seeing clients one-on-one, basically in a gym, or what did that look like?
Yeah. So and fitness has changed, the pandemic world changed fitness. So pre-pandemic, it was very normal to do one-on-one training in the gym. So somebody would sign up for an hour with you and you would work with them, do their exercises, tell them exactly what to do, watch them as they were doing it. And that was how I began my career and how most people began their personal training career. The pandemic just shut everything down. In my neighborhood, it was March 12th, 2020. Everything just closed. And so immediately I thought, well, I still want to work with people. And I had previously taught playwriting on Zoom. So I was familiar with Zoom from a number of years of teaching playwriting on Zoom before the pandemic. So I reached out to my local senior college and I said, well, how about if I offer a beginning yoga class online? And people just were so grateful and just loved it. People sort of poured into the Zoom room and just really appreciating that, right at the beginning of the pandemic, to just have an opportunity to do yoga. And then that I've just continued to sort of develop the options of what I can offer online, because it allows me to work with more people than I can work with the one-on-one.
Have you heard about senolytics yet? It is a class of ingredients discovered less than 10 years ago, and they're being called the biggest discovery of our time for promoting healthy aging and enhancing your physical prime. So you know that I absolutely had to get my hands on this. Your goals, your life goals, and your career and beyond require a lot of productivity. I feel that, and you feel that. But let's be honest, the aging process is not our friend when it comes to endless energy and productivity. That's why I started using Qualia Senolytic. As we age, we all kind of acquire these cells in our body that are called senescent cells. They cause symptoms of aging that we both feel: aches, pains, slow workout recovery, sluggish mental and physical energy, and everything kind of associated with that. They're also known as zombie cells. Basically, they're old and worn out and not serving as useful of a function as they once did. So we can take something like Qualia Senolytic, which helps remove these worn out senescent cells to allow for the rest of our cells to absolutely thrive. And one of the best parts is that you actually only need to take this supplement 2 days out of a month. So I like to do this once every quarter. So I'll do 1 month every quarter where I take these supplements just to really clean out the house, to sweep out all of the old zombie cells and really create space for the healthy new ones to absolutely thrive. And you can do the same. You can resist aging at a cellular level just like I am by using Qualia Senolytic. Go to neurohacker.com/Brittany for up to $100 off and use my code Brittany at checkout for an additional 15% off, which is huge. That's neurohacker.com/Brittany, spelled BRITTANY, for an extra 15% off your purchase. Let me know what you think. It's also linked right on my website in the show notes, so it's super easy for you to use. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the pandemic really did change a lot, and especially just helping us connect with people even more, across the globe through the internet. And I'm glad to hear that you were able to, take that and make something good out of it and really use it to build your business, because I think that's so important. So how has it like personally affected you? Like, again, going from even playwright and having this corporate job, and I'm sure getting, let go was difficult. But then to like solely like focus on, I guess you're focusing on clients, but to focus on your health and your physical body so much. Like, was there some healing that went through that? Like, what did that transformation really look like?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would say that before I committed to fitness, I had always participated in fitness, but in a fairly spotty manner. I had started to strength train at around turning 40 because I understood that was important for bone health as well as muscle health. So I had strength trained, but I was not regular. I did not have a committed program that I was doing. And so once I certified, I looked at myself and I said, you know what? You're client number one. Like I need to test everything on my body and see how I feel as I'm aging. So this started when I was 60. I'm now 66. So I really test everything on me to see how it feels to me when I'm developing programming. And then obviously when working with my clients, I spend a lot of time with my clients questioning them, how things feel to them and what works for them. And I do sometimes work with younger clients. I have this woman that I've worked with for a number of years who is in her 30s and was recovering from cancer and had to have repeated abdominal surgeries that were very challenging and very difficult. And we worked together, really focused on strengthening her core. And the last time she had a surgery, she said that the doctors and the nurses could not believe what she knew after the surgery because of how strong she was. And I love that story.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so inspiring and so encouraging. Yeah. I mean, I just think it'd be awesome to work with somebody one-on-one and also to be the personal trainer to really help someone transform like that, especially working in this demographic of women, I think is so important. I've seen, my mom's had a personal trainer. I've seen a lot of success with her, and it's a little different when I think you get to that stage. And I'm curious what you find are the most unique challenges that women face in fitness as they age. Is there some sort of trend that you kind of see with your clients that you've been able to assess and see?
That's a great question. People are so individual. I think for women, kind of body image and sense of self can change as your body's changing. And I really aspire to be very positive with people and encouraging them to love themselves, even if they have some criticism or quibble about something about themselves, that we start with loving ourselves and then, setting some goals and deciding what we'd like to change and then building the steps that will bring you the results that you're seeking. But I think that has to start from appreciating yourself and loving yourself. And so if you're critical of maybe you feel like you've been eating more than you should and you're critical about what your belly shape looks like, or feels like the belly shape has changed post-menopause, then we can talk about things that we can do to build muscle and strengthen your core. But I want to do it from the point of view of just being really self-loving.
Yeah, I love that. And I've heard other people say stuff like that. I mean, I've said stuff like that as well in my own life. And it's hard. I think of like examples of my mom when she will put herself down if she can't physically do something, let's say. And it's hard to see that and watch that when you're the outsider. But obviously that's a reflection of how she's feeling on the inside. So what do you do? Like if you are working with a client and say they're like, oh man, I can't do any more of these kettlebell swings. Like I'm exhausted. Oh, I'm so weak. I'm never going to get this. Like I'm never going to look how I want to look. Whatever they say that's like negative, like in that moment, like how do you handle it?
I try to stay really positive, and I'll say, immediately, if I feel like I can't do it, let's back off. Let's modify to something that feels more doable. And let's then do that doable thing, and maybe we'll restore. And then doing the doable thing, you'll say, you know what? I feel really good doing this. I feel strong doing it at this level. And so then we'll spend some time right at that level before we try to progress to the next step, right? So it's always good to be able to step back and forward in response to that. And I do a very careful intake so I know exactly what somebody's dealing with. So if, for example, they had a shoulder injury 3 years ago, I want to be aware of that and aware of that shoulder injury so I can be watching what I'm giving them, how I'm challenging the shoulder and making sure that we are strengthening it and not harming it. So I want to stay really aware of any issues that somebody has, any place where they've had problems in the past, because we want to build and improve, but never, we don't ever want to injure.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I like the idea of like starting where you're at and meeting them where they're at, I think is really important. And also just encouraging them to potentially do the deeper work to see where those feelings of lack of self-love are actually coming from, I would say, and just from what I've witnessed, a lot of the times, there's just deeper things that are going on when they actually say those statements out loud. So it's like, okay, how do we support you? Or what recommendations or books or podcasts can kind of take them to the next level of healing in conjunction with obviously doing the physical fitness and work that you're doing. So
yeah, and I just try to listen. I try to be there to listen really carefully. They have to say, yeah.
Yeah, because you are their personal trainer, right? Like you're spending an hour with them, maybe more, and it's kind of intimate. So like that actually provides a good opportunity for you to have like these life chats and life discussions.
Yes. And I do have to say a lot of how I deliver service now is online. I have an app. And so now I'll design programs and the client is going to do the programs on their own, but we're going to check in, and it's their choice whether they check in with me daily or they check in with me once a week. They have to check in with me either once a week or daily. And I'm always there to answer a question very quickly. If they have a question, we can always jump on a call if they want me to look at form. And so that's how I'm working with clients more now, so I can serve more people. But it's the same. I try to maintain that intimacy that you're referring to, even in that setup, that they know that I'm there for accountability and I'm there for cheering on and supporting and for being in the process with them and addressing any of their concern.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's smart. And I think people need those touch points for accountability and also just for like the intimacy, like you're talking about, of developing a relationship with them. So I think the way that you've designed that program is definitely smart. What are some of your top strategies for incorporating fitness into daily life, especially for all of us women, I guess at any age or anybody really, who is balancing so many different responsibilities? Like how do you stick to a schedule or a regimen really?
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate that many people are, kind of so super busy that they cannot imagine what moment in this day would I possibly get any fitness. That's many people's situation. And so I've really designed a program where I'm really asking for a minimum of 45 minutes a week. If you can give me 45 minutes a week, it's going to be 3 different 15-minute programs that I'm going to ask you to do. And I'm going to give you more stuff to do. If you have more time, you'll have other options of things you can do. But if that's the only time you have, I'm going to ask for 15 minutes 3 times a day. And if you're really jammed, you can divide those 15 minutes. You can do 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the middle of the day, 5 minutes towards the end of the day, right? You can really schedule it as you need to schedule it. And so that's what I've kind of come up with, because for some people, it has to be really time efficient for them to have a chance or prayer of, being consistent. And obviously it is only through consistency that you're going to get results.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really key. And I find, I mean, everyone kind of goes through these stages of like being more busy and not and less busy, and things kind of balance out. But if you do really make time for fitness, you actually excel in all other areas of your life. So for me, I have to prioritize it, because otherwise I can't show up as my best self in my business, as in my relationships, like anything, because I'm just like physically not, I'm almost like, what's the word? Like I feel like cooped up in my own body. Like I need to just like let energy out and have those endorphins. And it could be a walk for an hour. It could be a Peloton. It could be yoga for an hour.
Yeah.
But man, am I just so much better mentally and emotionally. And I sleep so much better when I make time for it. So for me, it's not even just about the time of the exercise, making time for that. It's like, oh, this impacts my entire day. That's why I'm going to do this.
I love that you're saying that. And I think that, and that's my hope, is that if somebody's has trepidation, but they sign up for the program and they say, okay, I'm going to do these 15 minutes 3 times a week. And then they start to do it and they start to feel everything you just described, that they're more productive at work. They feel more present in their relationships. They're sleeping better. They're eating better. Then they're going to start to do more. Right. They will start to exercise more, and all to the benefit of their body. So I love that you're saying that. It's completely true for me too.
Yeah, exactly. And I also will say that once you start, it's actually pretty easy to keep it going. Like once you're in the habit of every day I do half an hour, whatever it is, it's pretty easy to keep it going. It's when you fall off the bandwagon and then you have to get back on, that is the hardest time. That is like,
It
oh
is.
man.
It is. Starting is harder than continuing. It's completely true. Yeah, it's completely true that if it's, and I tend to talk about habit creation more than I talk about goals, because I think that what we want to do is build the habits that support our wellness and our health. Because I think goals sometimes can feel like a chore or be kind of punishing, like if I'm not meeting my goal. But if I can just sort of build the habit, like you're saying, it's 30 minutes. It works for me best to do it at noon, and it's in my calendar. And there it is. The day comes, noon comes, and I do my 30 minutes.
Exactly. I actually posted about that a while ago, talking about habit building versus goals. And I had the exact same perspective as you, because if you continue the habit, you will get to your goal. So rather than focusing on this like massive goal at the end of the day, wake up in the morning and say, okay, like this is the little thing that I have to do today that will build day after day after day. And then I will get to that goal. And when you shift your perspective like that, it's so much easier. Like it's so much more attainable. It doesn't feel like this massive thing that you're doing. It's just these little steps that add up.
100%. I love that. I love that we're saying the same thing. That's so fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was talking to my brothers yesterday, and we are talking about running a Spartan race next year for the first time. And I'm going to wait probably until I'm about a year postpartum,
Yeah.
maybe a bit more. And then I like watch these videos online of these people doing these Spartan races. And I'm like, holy smokes, how am I going to be able to do that? But then I think exactly like you just said, okay, if I can create a training program for a year and work up to having the different strength and the endurance and mobility, then I can 100% do that in 15 months. Like I can definitely do that. So it's like, it's really nice to have this big shiny goal, but you really do have to break it down into these like bite-sized chunks for sure.
Something doable, something I know what to do. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, it's true for business as well, but it is very true for fitness as well. So when you're working with these clients, are you doing a lot of cardio versus mobility or strength training? Is it kind of like a combination of everything, or where do you go?
Yeah, it's a combination. So I am giving them, it's most common for me to be giving the strength training piece. And when I say strength training, it'll be a combination of yoga and resistance training, and Pilates will kind of be blended in there. And then I recommend that they're just finding the cardio that serves them. So whether that's a daily walk or a daily bike ride or a Peloton or rowing or swimming, then, they'll do the cardio that they want to do.
Do you have trouble recalling names, dates, or where you left things? I definitely have experienced this. Wouldn't it be nice to feel clear-minded and energized all of the time? I know you want this, and I definitely want this as well. Bioptimizers has created a one-of-a-kind product called Mushroom Breakthrough that can supercharge your brain power. It's packed with highly concentrated mushroom extracts that science shows enhance memory, focus, processing speed, and more. Just one serving contains 5 potent superfoods like collagen and 1.2 pounds of 4 concentrated mushrooms, including lion's mane, reishi, cordyceps, and chaga. This cutting-edge blend is a powerful way to rebuild your brain and rewire it for maximum energy, focus, and performance in less than 30 days. After each serving of Mushroom Breakthrough, your ability to memorize and recall information will improve, and you'll get a hefty dose of antioxidants for immune support. On top of these incredible benefits, it's also delicious. It tastes like a rich chocolate elixir. Sip our smooth, delicious drink daily and notice your thinking gets crisp fast. Simply mix it with water or milk and enjoy. Or for a more potent blend, you can mix it with your morning coffee to transform it into a delicious mood-boosting mocha. Don't miss out on the brain-boosting power of this amazing new product. For an exclusive offer for my listeners only, you can go to bioptimizers.com/biohackingbrittany and use code biohackingbrittany at checkout. The great thing about Bioptimizers is that you can try it risk-free and you can use their 365-day money-back guarantee. So head over to bioptimizers.com/biohackingbrittany. Try it now to sharpen your edge and reach your potential. I actually think I'm going to go make a cup right after this. Nice. Yeah, I love that. I want to pick your brain briefly on mobility.
Yeah.
I see this word thrown around a lot, and I'd love for you to kind of explain the difference between mobility and flexibility. And I also just feel like, and even as someone who works out and is into the fitness world, I feel like I don't even have a clear understanding of maybe how to work on my mobility every day.
Yeah. Okay. So mobility, kind of rock bottom, is your ability to move. And so if you're talking about somebody like, so I live with my 89-year-old mother. So for her, mobility is about, can I walk from my bedroom to the kitchen with my cane safely? Right. So it's that rock bottom for somebody like that. For somebody healthy like you and I, mobility is kind of the functioning of how my joints move and what is my range of motion, and do I still have my fullest range of motion? And range of motion depends on where we're moving the joints. If we talk about the leg, I can lift my leg, to about 90 degrees or a little bit higher towards the front of me, a flexion. So I can lift in front of me 90 degrees or a little bit higher in front of me. But extension back behind me is a much smaller range of motion. That's more like 30% for the typical person. So the range of motion for, what your arm can do in your joint, in the shoulder joint socket, all of that. So mobility is in partly about what is your range of motion? Are you maintaining your full range of motion, or has anything compromised it, right? And it could be compromised from an injury. It could be compromised from not using it enough. And that is usually a problem that is happening at the level of the joint itself. And yeah. And so flexibility is a little bit more about how much you can stretch and lengthen muscles and tendons. So flexibility is more about, is kind of the degree of stretching that you have. And there's no hard and fast rules about it. It's most important for people to be true to what their body does. So I'm a little hyper flexible, hyper mobile. So I can stretch a little longer, a little deeper than somebody else. But it's really, when it comes to stretching, it's really important to not compare yourself to anybody else. So like in a yoga studio, I really ask everybody to have their eyes focused on their own mat, as opposed to trying to look at somebody else and judging what somebody else is doing, because everybody is super different. How tight your hamstrings are or how loose your hamstrings are is very different person to person, regardless of age. So stretching is in the eye of the beholder, right? You want to stretch to the comfort for yourself and where you feel good, and not try to go any further than that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So mobility is about, your joints and how range of motion, like the range of motion that they have. And I guess you can always compare yourself to your younger self versus comparing yourself to a different person, which I think is obviously more of an accurate measurement. But the flexibility is the muscles. And I guess the ability for those muscles to be flexible actually helps the range of motion. So obviously the two are tied together.
It is definitely, it's definitely tied together. Yes, yes, yes. But if you think about doing a bicep curl, right? When you curl up, you're contracting the muscle, so you're shortening it. And when you stretch your arm back out, you're lengthening the muscle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so if you're going to work on mobility, would it look very similar to working on flexibility in terms of dynamic stretching and that type of thing? Or are there other things that you could do specifically?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different. I think mobility, it's you can think of like the functional movement. So doing squats, doing lunges, those are really great for working on mobility. And so flexibility is more after you've worked out, you can do static stretching after workout. So before workout, we do dynamic movement. We don't static stretch before. We only static stretch after. And different people have different impressions about this, because back in the day, when I was young, when you walked into gym class, they would tell you to touch your toe, right? Which is instantly a static stretch. We don't do that anymore, right? Before we're working out, we just want to move around dynamically, kind of just wake the joints up and, test out my range of motion dynamically. But after I've warmed up my whole body and done my whole workout, then I can work on static stretching and my flexibility.
Nice. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because I've done both. And when you're doing the static stretching before a workout, it's like, it's just like painful. It's just tight. You know what I mean?
It's a cold body that you're trying to stretch.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Versus like afterwards, if you do the same stretches, it's also actually interesting to see after a workout, after you're warm and there's circulation and there's blood flow, and then you go and touch your toes and you're like, oh, wow, I can put my hands on the floor now after an hour of working out. It's like, yeah, because your muscles are warm and they're lengthened and you've been, utilizing them in the proper way. So I think that's really important. And the other thing I want to touch on with mobility is the decline in mobility is very much a result of our lifestyle. So I work from home. I work at a desk, and man, am I ever thinking about how I am shortening my hamstrings, how I'm sitting so often. My glutes are not engaged, like all of these things that actually adds up year after year. So it's not just like, oh, I hurt myself. I got into an accident, or, I have some sort of health condition. It's like, no, a lot of people in their younger years, like in their 30s, in their 20s, 40s, whatever, are actually experiencing mobility issues from sitting so much in an office. And then having to reverse that is tough.
No, yeah, that's exactly true. And I know I did it to myself. I mean, I sat a lot in my late 20s and 30s. I sat a lot in offices. And so it's really, I mean, if you have sedentary work, then you do need to stand up at least once every hour. And it is really great if you could do a 2-minute something, like do a 2-minute exercise or a 3-minute exercise. That's really good. Or walk outside, get some sun on your face, breathe some fresh air, walk around the block and then come back and do the next hour. But really you want to get up every hour, and you can time it with when you need to use the restroom. You can time it with when you need to drink some water. So maybe you don't just have the water sitting at your desk, but maybe you have to get up to get the water. That might be a good strategy. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I get up from my desk at least once an hour, like food, water, peeing, going outside, taking supplements, whatever I'm doing. And I just have to. I almost get like restless. But I had a friend who was working downtown, and he was at a big corporate office, and he is an accountant. And his rule was every time that he would get up and go to the bathroom, he would do 10 squats in the bathroom.
I love it.
Yeah. And he was super into fitness, and his same reasoning. He's like, I need to wake my body up. I need the blood flow, makes my brain feel better, makes me feel awake. Otherwise I'm just tired, slugging back coffee all day, not feeling energized. So there's ways around it.
I love that. And I've been really noticing this about myself, because now I'm up and about and working in physical most of the day now in my life. And when I have to sit and write something on my computer, I am finding that after like no more than 60 minutes, my body is going, no, 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 get up, move me. Right. And when I was in my 30s, my body didn't say that. Like I could sit forever. Right now, my body actually is literally telling me, and I love that it's telling me to get up.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I love that you're so in tune that you can actually hear that and listen.
Yes, yes.
Because I think that is important instead of just kind of ignoring it. So, I'm glad that you're like incorporating this mobility training as well with your clients. Yeah, because I think it's often overlooked. Even stretching in general can kind of just seem like overlooked by a lot of people, and like it really doesn't do anything, but it actually does. It actually really makes a difference if you can stick to it and stick to a routine of it.
Yeah. It makes a really big difference. And I do see, I think it's a key part of strength training. So everything, if I'm going to work my chest muscles as hard as I can work them and my back muscles as hard as I can work them, I want to stretch them after I've done that to relax and reward the muscle. And I see when I'm in a gym, I see people, working really hard and never stretching. And I'm like, oh no.
Oh yeah. I've seen that so many times. I used to go to like a spin studio, and the last 5 minutes of stretching, and so many people just leave because they have to go to work. Yeah. And they get off the bike, and I'm just like, you just exercised so hard. Like your legs need to be stretched. But anyway, I guess they do what they want to do. I know you've had, experience with arthritis, and I'd love for you to kind of dive into this a bit with us. How did that impact your health journey, and how have you tailored maybe your fitness towards that?
Yeah. So I personally have arthritis myself, and for me, I probably have it in more locations than I'm aware of, but the location I'm aware of is my right knee. And this has been true for probably 8 or so years. And for me, I don't have a lot of pain yet. I have almost more of a sense of instability. And I've had it x-rayed and I've had it looked at, and I'm nowhere near a knee replacement at this point in time. And I firmly believe that what I'm doing is buying me more time, because I squat very deeply. I squat down into a malasana, if you know that yoga term, which is the deepest squat. And I pistol squat. I do all kinds of sissy squats. I do all kinds of things to strengthen all of the muscles up and down and around my knee, so that I can just be as strong as I can be for as long as I can be. And I think that, and that's working for me. one of the things I notice is that, I mean, I think for arthritis, the mobility is the most important thing. Continuing to move the affected joint is the only way to keep it functioning. And I fear that too often people would like the magic pill or the magic salve or the something that's going to make the bad feelings go away. And I think that you should take a pill if you're in pain or use a salve or whatever's going to help you. But but that is not a substitute for moving. You have to move the joint. If you don't move the joint, you will lose range of motion and you will lose mobility, period.
So how often do you recommend that people are moving the joint, especially if there's pain around it? Like what does the typical kind of training regimen look like for somebody who has arthritis?
I think you want to do, have a set of exercises that are tolerable, so you don't want to do anything that hurts. You want to find the things you can do that are strengthening, that are not painful, right? So that takes a lot of guidance to learn what those things are. You want to do exercises that are not painful, but that are strengthening. And you pretty much want to have a daily routine. And when I say a daily routine, that includes a day of rest. So one day a week, I'm going to work. I can take a walk on my day of rest, but I'm not going to work as hard as I do the other 6 days.
No, that makes sense. I think that's a really good idea. I would love to start doing a daily stretching routine. Man, I've tried so many times. I typically exercise or sweat every single day, but that does not necessarily mean stretching. And there is such a difference when you can stick to it daily, though. It's something I aspire to work on for sure.
Yeah. And I do. I mean, I program it. Every program I give to people, here's your dynamic warm up. Here are the exercises you're going to do. And these are the stretches you're going to do when you're done with the exercises. The stretching is just equally just as important as the exercises.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing with stretching too is it's actually so easy. Like you don't really need anything most of the time. Maybe you need a yoga mat, but you could stretch on a carpet really if you wanted to. And you could do it in front of the TV.
You can.
It's so the barrier to entry for stretching is so little. It's just that it just hurts or it's uncomfortable. So we don't do it. But the research behind stretching is significant. It is very, very significant on how it can help your health in so many different ways. And so it's just one of those things that we know about it. We just don't do it a lot. It's kind of like people who don't drink a lot of water, same thing.
I know. We can talk about water too, but and as you're saying, it's don't stretch to the point of pain. Just, go a little bit. Just be easeful. Be easeful. It doesn't have to be all full of effort. It can be easeful.
Yeah. That's a good point too. I do a lot of, when I do stretch, I definitely go to points of pain and just kind of ignore it, but maybe I should back off a little bit.
I think so. I would back off a little bit. I would. Isn't that so funny? It's probably your personality to achieve, but it may be an area where a little kindness goes a long way. And one of the things I practice is what's called restorative yoga, and restorative yoga is inviting some stretch. And what you do is you want to use things like bolsters and blankets or towels or whatever you have to kind of bring the earth up to you and support underneath you so that you feel really kind of sheltered and caressed while you're doing it. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I've done a bunch of different yoga classes, and whenever I do yin yoga, where, you're holding a pose for a long time, sometimes 3 minutes, that is very sobering because that is you're not going to go to your absolute best in the first 10 seconds and be in pain. That is gentle, very gentle. And it's the opposite of how a lot of us stretch. So some of us and I do this all the time, is I'm going to touch my toes and I'm going to do it until the maximum I can do it in 10, 15 seconds. Okay, I'm done. But if you do something a little easier, but for 3 minutes,
Yes.
by the time the 3 minutes comes, holy, it's tough, but it feels very, very good. So
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah. So if people want to work with you and reach out and connect with you, how can they do that if they want to, be personal trained by you?
Yeah. Well, I can give you my email address. Is that a good thing to give you?
Sure. Or any of your social media accounts that
Or
works as
social
well.
media, yeah. So you can DM me on Instagram. So it's Coach Andrea Lepcio. Yeah, Coach Andrea Lepcio on Instagram, and Facebook it's just it's Andrea Lepcio without Coach on Facebook. Yeah. Yeah, but I think, yeah, probably DMing me on Instagram is really easy. So Coach Andrea Lepcio.
I will link that in the show notes and on my website so people can easily find you and connect with you and ask you any of their personal questions as well, because I'm sure people will have some. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I just love talking to you and I just find your story so inspiring. So thank you.
You too. It's been great. And I will continue to follow you because I learned a lot from you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Biohacking with Brittany. If you're interested in finding the show notes or the sponsors for this episode, you can do so on my website, which is biohackingbrittany.com. Remember to follow me on Instagram where I'm most active. My handle is @biohackingbrittany. And if you're interested in working together and you want to email me directly, you can do that. My email is info@biohackingbrittany.com. And I look forward to hearing from you and having you tune in next week.